Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Callista. Today we are going to be reading some more Reddit stories. But before we jump into that, first let me show you my shirt. So you guys know Lex from my Dating with Lex series, right? Obviously. So she's actually making a brand. It has a lot of like t-shirts, but she wants to do other stuff too, like hats and possibly jeans and hoodies and stuff like that. But she made me this one. So she just gets like vintage t-shirts, and then she pretty much, it's like tie-dyeing, but she bleaches it. It's pretty easy, it's really cool. But mine's like this Ice Cube one, and if you know me, I fucking love Ice Cube. Okay, so yeah, pretty cool. I'll have her Instagram link down below just in case you want to go check that out. It's called Ziggy Tees. It's pretty cool. I helped her come up with the name. So one more thing I wanted to talk about before I get into this video is just the fact that I don't post very much. So there's been a lot of stuff that's been going on in my life, and it's just been kind of draining me mentally, and it's just been a lot harder to get myself to actually do things, like actually make a video. And then also I'm going to be moving out of this apartment. I'm going to be moving back home. So that's been stressing me out, and then I've been having to worry about moving, and just a whole bunch of shit is happening right now. So I'm hoping by the end, after everything gets all figured out, I'm hoping that I can actually start posting a lot more, and hopefully I'll have more motivation to actually film a video, but we'll see. So I was just skimming through Reddit a few days ago, and so I came across those Let's Not Meet stories, which I love those. And so I saved 3 of them, and they're all pretty long. So I figured I would just read these 3, and that should be good for a video. I haven't read any of these. I just kind of skimmed through them a little bit to see if they'd be good to read. This first one is a creepy man tried to kill me and my friend. So let's have at it. This happened when both me and my friend Jay were 15. I was spending the night at his house, as I often did. It was a normal enough night. We watched movies, played a couple video games, and stayed up way too late. It was about 2 a.m. I think when we heard a loud banging coming from the front door. Luckily at the time we were in his kitchen at the back of the house, so no one could have seen us. We were spooked because there shouldn't have been anyone at the door at this hour, but we figured it was just some drunk person and they'd go away soon enough. After 30 seconds, there was more banging on the door and yelling that neither of us could understand. It sounded like an adult man, and he sounded angry, so we were both scared. He texted his mom, who we thought was upstairs, but she said that she had left a bit before without saying anything. She did that often enough. Okay, one thing. This person keeps saying enough. Like, and it's like bothering me. It's like, it was normal enough. And then it's like, they'd go away soon enough. And now they're like, she did that often enough. Like, oh, okay. She liked to go to her friends' houses in the middle of the night, so we didn't pay any attention or notice when she left. We didn't know what to do, as we were scared to call the police based off past experiences with cops in our small town being not the best. At this point, we turned off the kitchen light and we were ducked down on the ground. We heard the banging and yelling getting louder, and I decided to see who it was, if it was anyone we knew. I arm crawled through the dining room, which was also dark, and peeked through the door to the living room, which is where the front door was. There is also a huge window by the door that you can see right into the dining room through, so I was very careful not to be seen. I couldn't see any details of the man, but he looked to be about 6 feet tall and had gray hair. I called back to Jay and we quietly decided what to do. We heard the knowing It says we heard the knowing stop, but I think they meant banging. So we decided to wait. We heard the banging stop, so we decided to wait a bit before seeing if it was safe. We also decided to go under the table in the dining room in case he tried to come around back, which is where the kitchen was. After around 10 minutes of silence, we rock, paper, scissored for who had to check if he was there, and of course I lost. So I again army crawled to the dining room door. I saw the man staring through the window, hands cupped against the glass. I made eye contact with him the moment he saw me, and I loudly said, "Shit," causing my friend to panic and crawl behind me. I saw him pull out his phone. He told me later that he was texting his mom to come home and save us. The man started yelling again, and this time we could make out a bit more of what he said. It was mostly cussing, although I definitely heard the phrase, "I'm going to kill you," in there a couple times. I quickly looked past the man to see if any of the neighbors seemed to notice him, but no luck. I crawled back out of his sight and again discussed what to do with my friend. We decided to go into the basement for safety, which you could get to by moving the fridge. Confusing house, I know, but it was really old and not meant for modern-sized appliances. We pull out the fridge and get into the basement, feeling mostly safe but still terrified. I start having a panic attack, although I'm trying to hold it together best I can for Jay, who is also on the verge of a panic attack. We hear a gunshot and shattering glass from above us, and I cover my mouth so I don't scream. Jay and I look at each other, terrified. We hear loud footsteps and yelling above us, the man asking where we went. We hear him going upstairs and run around up there for a bit. He eventually comes back down and starts turning over furniture, I'm assuming to find us. After what felt like hours but was probably only minutes, Jay's mom pulls into the driveway, which scares the guy as he runs out the back door in the kitchen. Jay and I get out of the basement and run to greet his mom, never happier to see her. She was shocked by the state of the house and hugged us, happy that we were safe and scared by how close we were to being hurt. We all were scared after that. After that night, they had better security installed, and we went over safety protocol if anything ever happened again. Luckily, it hasn't happened again yet, although when I go to his house, I'm still scared. We never called the police because we knew there wasn't much they could even do. Just cleaned up and moved on. Okay. I don't care about, yeah, there's not much they could do, but at least it would have gotten the man to go away before he fucking broke the glass and made a mess in the house and made you have a fucking panic attack and scare you shitless, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, okay, I'm reading this comment right now that's on it, and it's like, for future, you should always call the police. They are armed better than mom, LOL. And after, it would be good to have on file so they can send cop cars and look out for the guy. See, exactly, even if your cops suck or whatever the reason is that you didn't want to call the cops, it says that they were scared to call the cops based off of past experiences because they aren't the best. Still call them. Yeah, it's good to have the guy on file so they can go and find him, or if he breaks into other houses, they know it's the same guy and they are armed better than mom. Yes. This is the next one. It's called, "I'm Pretty Sure They Weren't Rats." I was 14 years old when I had to live with my grandparents. I had to live with them because my sister was in college and my parents were divorced. They lived in this old bungalow type house. It was one story and we have stairs that immediately go up the attic. An attic which no one really uses. We just put stuff in there. It's too hot and stuffy up there. The sole window up there didn't really help. The attic had old creaky wooden floors that I remember that I have to polish with the coconut shell because that's how we do it here in the Philippines. That and my grandparents are very traditional. One night my grandparents had to pick up my aunt's family from the airport. But because of the hellish traffic here, they had to leave at 7 p.m. and their expected arrival back home would be at most 5 a.m. Wow. So a 14-year-old girl would be alone at home the whole time. I told them I would be safe here. We live in a gated community, we got tons of guard dogs, everything will be okay. Or so I thought. Before they left, we already had dinner, so I was stuck with cleaning the dishes and all. As I was doing that, I could hear a bunch of neighboring dogs bark a lot. I didn't really think much of it because the dogs always do that. When I finished cleaning up from dinner, I immediately had to lock every door and window and close all the lights before heading to bed. When I entered my room, the lights were open and it looked normal. My anime posters were on the wall. My closet was untouched. My bed was next to my barred tinted windows. We had to tint them because I was on the first floor and my grandparents wanted to make sure no one would peep in a young girl's room. They were barred too because my uncle, who used to use the room, always escaped through there to go to parties. This was my grandparents' solution to that. Nothing was out of place to alarm me. Everything was normal until I closed the lights. Okay, so imagine your parents putting bars on your window so that you don't leave to go to parties. As soon as I closed my lights, a silhouette of a man was illuminated by the streetlights outside. He looked like he had thick curly hair and a skinny build. I thought I was having hallucinations. So I opened the lights again. He was gone. I closed it again. He was back again. Opened, gone, closed, gone. I sighed in relief. I was just tricking myself, I guess. Or something else was casting the shadow. I double locked my door just to be safe, one with the doorknob lock and one of those latches type locks. Then tucked myself in. It was hard to fall asleep when a lot of dogs were barking outside. They weren't our dogs, it was neighbors. But I was finally falling asleep when I heard something from above me moving, something in the attic. I pushed down the thought. I'm tricking myself again. I hugged my pillow. It's just rats, I said to myself. These rats seemed heavy and were also pushing furniture around. My heart sank when I heard them hurriedly go down the stairs and stop at the bottom. I covered myself with my blanket and I waited for something. That kind of gave me the chills. Just like you hear them running down the stairs and then all of a sudden stop at the bottom. I was also wishing my parents given me a phone at a time like this, but I only waited in bated breath. Suddenly, I heard my doorknob being gently fiddled. I wanted to vomit when I heard a click, followed by a quiet turn of the knob. The knob turned, but it didn't budge. When they noticed, they tried to push it. This time, I had finally stood up, shaking. I was a kid, home alone with no phone, no means of defense. All that was saving me was this thick door from the old days. I softly pushed my body up against the door and locked everything up again. I didn't want to make sound. I didn't want to scream. I didn't want him to know I was here. I don't know why he stopped, but he did. I didn't go back to my bed. I just sat there at the door, waiting. It felt like forever. I heard footsteps go up the stairs, but I still sat there. I saw something move in the corner of my eye. There, out the window. The shadow was back. I forced myself not to look. All I could think of was, thank God, they were barred. I don't remember what happened after that. I think I fell asleep or I was too scared to even think straight. I just remember the next day when my family and I were finally having breakfast. I casually brought it up like, I think I heard footsteps in the attic last night. My grandmother scoffed. It's probably rats. I never brought it up again. I didn't want them to worry. It probably was. But I do know this. Our dogs were caged up near the gate and were far from my room, so they wouldn't have seen anything. The only dogs who were near my room were the neighbors. Also, there was nothing outside my window that could cast a shadow that looked like a man. Lastly, the attic window was open. That's creepy. Ugh. Just imagine being home alone, just a little youngin', and you see a shadow outside and then it disappears and next thing you know, the fucker was in your attic. Okay, this one's the last one. Chased by strange people in the woods with a large bag. Okay, I think this one's gonna be a good one. So I'm new to Reddit and I found this sub and I think this story fits here. I've had a number of odd, frightening experiences in the woods since I'm a huge outdoors guy and pretty much outside all the time. I can manage it. One of these experiences I tried posting here but it got rejected. I thought this one would sound too far-fetched, but after reading some other stories on here I decided I'll post it. So this happened when I was much younger. I want to say freshman in high school, probably like 2008. There used to be this road near where I lived in California called Croak Road. It was barely a road, no one traveled on it, and it was surrounded by small patches of forest and some abandoned barns and houses. I would typically go there with my friends to skateboard and hang out. This one night I was hanging out with two of my friends, Lucas and Dorian, and someone wanted to go to Croak Road and hang out since it was creepy at night. It might sound lame, but we loved exploring like a bunch of 5th graders and weren't really into smoking or anything, so what else was there to do? Good for you. I asked my 20-year-old brother James if he could drive us down into one of the nature reserves by the road. This specific reserve was larger than the others and had a network of gravel paths leading through it. Basically, we were looking for unexplored territory to hike in. Soon, one particular path we were traveling down had become so narrow, James's Ford Explorer couldn't pass through it, so we got out and walked for a while, chatting and just having fun. We walked through the woods for about half an hour until it had gotten relatively dark out and the sun was gone, at which point we turned around to head back to the car. It's now I should mention that despite being near a lot of subdevelopments, this patch of forest was huge, I'd say about 1,000 acres, and rarely visited since it was easy to get lost in, especially at night. It was a challenge getting the car turned around, but James managed it and we were off down the road. Dorian proposed we turn down a different path we had passed by earlier since we had about another 40 minutes until our parents wanted us back, and we agreed. Down this path was a tiny pond Dorian wanted to check out to take pictures of since he hadn't gotten the opportunity to visit it at night. It was slow going since this road was even crappier than the main one we were traveling on that turned off of Croak Road. I keep wanting to say Creek Road, but Croak. Minutes later, we got into a slight argument. Dorian was convinced James had taken a wrong turn since we should have arrived at the pond by now, while James claimed that he had been driving straight the whole time. It was dark after all. Eventually, we came to a fork in the road that none of us were familiar with. None of us knew which way to go, so we ended up guessing and going left, hoping that both directions would ultimately lead back to the main path. None of us were scared or anything. In fact, we were actually excited and intrigued, driving through seemingly the middle of nowhere at night. So that's something I would do, but I would be scared. Yeah. See, like, I like doing really scary things, and I like being scared and putting myself in those situations, but I don't know if I can do like the forest at night. It's just kind of creepy. Like, me and Lex went to this campfire and it was about like 10:30 at night and it was in the woods and we couldn't get the fire to light because we're fucking stupid. But it was so scary. Like, it was pitch black and I swear to God, I kept like hearing noises and stuff, and it's just like really eerie and you don't know what's out there, you know? Like, not only do you have to be scared of bears and animals and everything, but those creepy humans. Those humans, man. It was at this point we rounded a small bend in the road and the headlights fell upon a surreal sight. There were 4 figures emerging from the forest and crossing the road, wearing what looked like to be long cloaks, with the hoods up and holding flashlights. One guy at the back of the group was dragging a large duffel bag, a human-sized duffel bag. We all froze and stopped mid-conversation, and as soon as our high beams landed on the 4 figures, they froze as well. James pulled to the left and went around them. Driving past them felt like an eternity because we couldn't have been going over 5 miles per hour due to the shitty condition of the road. Sitting in the passenger seat, I could see them inches beyond my window, and they were indeed wearing black robes and holding flashlights. I didn't get a good look at the bag, but judging by the way the guy was holding it, something heavy was inside the bag. None of us said a word until the road straightened out and we were far past these guys, at which point James just muttered, "What the hell was that?" We continued down the road in silence until I heard Lucas say, "Holy shit," and he repeated himself. In a louder, panicked voice, he said, "They're fucking coming back." I twisted around in my chair to see Lucas pointing out the back window. I could barely see anything, but about 100 yards away we saw the beams of 4 flashlights shaking erratically. These guys were without a doubt running after us. All of us screamed at James to floor it, and he sped down the road. The car was bouncing and shaking uncontrollably as we flew over berms and potholes. I kept my eyes on the flashlight beams until we rounded another bend in the road and they were out of sight. Thankfully, the path did manage to take us back to the main path. James gunned it down the path until we popped off by Croak Road. This fucking UPS truck just keeps coming up and down the road. James gunned it down the path until we popped off by Croak Road and got the hell out of there. The weirdest thing about it was there couldn't have been a vehicle anywhere near those guys for 50 miles in either direction. We would have seen one if there had been. We had explored most of the area before, and there wasn't anywhere to pull off the road and park. We didn't say anything more until we were back at my place. We talked about it for a bit, and then my friends went home and James and I went to bed. I didn't know if we should call cops or not, but James, who I'd guess would be the adult in this situation, seemed reluctant, so I dropped it. I never told my parents until just before writing this, and they kind of scolded me for not telling them, and that we should have contacted the authorities just to report suspicious people in the preserve. I still wish to know how the hell they got there, where they were going, and what was in the bag. One thing that this reminded me of for some reason, I don't know if you guys have seen, but there were these TikTokers that used that one app that's called it's called Randonautica, and basically it takes you to a random place just based on your intent, I guess. But people find like really crazy, creepy places and things and everything. But these one TikTokers, they found a suitcase and it had human remains in it, and I don't know why that just like reminded me of it, just because they were holding a bag. And the way they were dressed with like the black cloaks with the hood makes me think maybe they were in a cult or something and they were doing like a sacrifice and now they were getting rid of the body or something. But that would be the perfect place for it, like in the middle of a forest, you know, where no one goes, like in the middle of the night. But even though after hearing that, I still really want to try doing the Randonautica app. So let me know if you guys want to see me do that. Maybe I'll do it just by myself. Just kidding. I'll bring someone along just in case, because if I run into something like that, I do not want to be alone. Yeah. But I will put the links in the description for all of these stories that I just read, and you guys can go look at them or whatever. Just want to give credit where it's due. But like I said earlier, I'm going to try and post more. I'm going to try and film more, but we'll just see. So yeah, peace out from Ice Cube and me. Bye.